welcome back to my channel again. Happy Sunday, and I hope you all are doing all right. Now today's video is a request from someone, and they asked, please could you tell us what things we can do to help us to discipline our children when we are in the UK. Now, of course, for those of you who don't know, in the UK, you are not allowed to flog your children in a way that you leave a mark in their skin. And basically, in order for you not to get into trouble, you're not allowed to flog, spank, or hit your children one way or the other as a form of discipline. Now, someone said, oh, because you've been here, you teach and all of that, could you just explain to us or tell us what sort of things that we can do for those of us who are overseas, who plan to come into the UK with young children? What sort of things can we do to discipline our children since we can't flog them? Now, for some countries in Africa, they flog children, or they use the cane or whatever as a method of discipline. Now, this is equally phasing out in Africa, but I mean, some people still do that, but in the UK, it is a no, no, no. So I'm just going to be sharing with you the things that I do as a mom, and the things that I do as a teacher, more especially the things that I do at home as a mom to be able to discipline my children, other than the use of flogging. Okay. Now, if it's just me look down, I'm just looking at my notes. I have my notes down here with me, so that's why I'm doing that. Now, I think for me, the key thing is, the first and the most important thing you need to do is you need to learn to have a dialogue with your children, okay? So you need to learn to interact and discuss with your children. For me, as a mom, this is what I do. So if my children do things that I think that they shouldn't, I tend to talk to them. I say, right, let's have a chat about it. What did you do? Why did you do it? Do you think it was the best thing to you to do at that time? What could you have done better? Now, this is not something that is very peculiar in Africa. Now, as I said, the times are changing in Africa. Things are getting a bit better. And you find out that parents are beginning to talk a lot more to your children. But back in my days when I was growing up, is what have you done? Back, they flog you. And that's the end of the story. Or you do your punishment, and that's the end of the story. But here, the most important thing for me, I think, is dialogue. You need to learn to talk to your children, and you need to learn to appeal to their conscience, okay? Because I think if you do that, then for them, that's how they can see that what they've done is wrong. And then you can then discuss what other strategies or what other things could you have done instead of this. And then they will tell you. So it makes them think. It makes them reflect on their behavior. It makes them reflect on their actions. And it makes them to see that, okay, we can do things differently rather than this other way. Okay. Now, as I said, you just need to learn. It's a skill that you need to learn. That my husband is better at this skill than I do, than myself. But I also use the same skill. Okay. So you need to learn to talk to your children. As Africans, we don't do this. Some people do it. Some families in Africa do it. But for me, this is the number one and the most important thing that for me as a form of discipline, is you need to speak to your children. Children can understand. They can reason. No matter how young, they can understand, they can reason. So if you reason with them, talk to them, talk through whatever it is that they have done, and then make them see that, okay, I can do things differently, or I can do this in a better way, rather than having to do it this way that I have done it, which isn't a good way. So number one thing is you should learn to dialogue with your children and trash out things. Now, it gets to a point where you say, okay, I keep saying the same thing over and over and over and over again. What next? Then this is where you can now begin to introduce some form of consequences, okay? Now, when my kids were younger and were growing, I used to use the naughty steps with them. The naughty steps is just the staircase in my house. So if they've done something wrong, and I think that they and I've spoken to them and they haven't listed about it to that thing, then I say, okay, go to the naughty steps. So the naughty steps is basically, it's like you're taking away the privileges of sort of freedom. They go sit down there. Now, please, I've seen parents who say, go to the naughty steps, and they don't give them the amount of time to sit on the naughty steps. So if you want them to sit on naughty steps, tell them you're going to sit there for 20 minutes or for 10 minutes. And while you're sat down there, I want you to think of what you've done and why you did it. So they sit down there. Now, to be honest, no child wants to be excluded. No child wants to be on their own. my children, they so hated this naughty steps. They hated it with passion. But for me, it's another way, okay? Rather than having to smack them or to flog them, I just say, you know what, go to your naughty steps, sit down there for 20 minutes. So make sure you have a time to that naughty steps rather than sitting down there forever. Because when they sit down there forever, the next thing is they will start getting fidgety, they will start getting silly, and then you start all over again with what it is that you are trying to stop or you're trying to correct. So make sure that there is a time frame to where they sit on that naughty steps. And then when that time frame is done, then you call them over, you sit them down and say, right, have you thought about your action? Have you thought about what you did? Why did you do it? Do you think that was the best thing to have done, for you to have done? What could you do better? How can we make sure that this does not happen again? Again, that is where another form of dialogue comes in. Now, if your children are teenagers, of course, you can't get them to sit on the naughty steps. Naughty steps is about, I'll say, within the ages of 3 to about 8. I think that's when you can use the naughty steps. But once they get past that, it does just make sense. You can't tell a teenager to go to the naughty steps. It makes no sense. Now, for the bigger ones, you might tell them to go to their room and sit down there. Then if you know, if you have bedrooms where they have gadgets or things like that, take it off and go to your room and sit down there. And again, you're going to be there for 20 minutes and I want you to think about what you've done. Now, with going to the room, you have to be careful because some children, this may not work for them. Okay, some children might go in there and end up trashing the room. Now, if they trash the room again, that is adding more, you are building up the situation rather than trying to diffuse the situation. So if you know that your child is likely going to trash the room if you say go to your room, then maybe that's not the best strategy for you. But when they get older, then you can say go to your room and stay there for this long and later come back and talk to me about it. Now, one thing I always say to parents and to people is never react when you are angry, because that is when you have when you are angry and your emotions are running wild, then that's when you begin to shout, that's when you begin to scream. And to be honest, it's not necessary, okay? You don't need that. So the best thing is at that point in time, if you know that you can't control your shouting or your screaming, then you remove them from the situation or remove yourself from the situation by saying go to your room or go to the naughty steps. And then when you're calm enough, then you can call them back and then talk to them and talk through the situation of what happened. Now, the next thing you can do is take away gadgets, okay? Now, children need to understand that for whatever actions that you take that is bad, there is consequences to it, okay? So if you've done the talking and you've done the naughty steps and maybe things are not working, just take off gadgets. Now, if you have children who are so glued to gadgets or maybe the television or something like that, then you can use that. You can say, okay, there will be no gadgets for 1 hour. Okay, so you take all the gadgets and say, no use for gadgets for 1 hour until you're able to maybe apologize or you're able to tell me what you've done and why you've done it wrong. So you can take away gadgets and take away maybe TV time, sort of like you can switch off the TV and say nobody watches the TV for another 1 hour or for another whole day or for another 2 days, you know. So that can also be as a form of consequence in order for them to be able to see that, oh, actually I've done something wrong for this to happen. So now, again, maybe if you've planned trips with them or things to do with them, you can say, okay, because you behaved this way, which I think is not right, then unfortunately we can't go on this trip. Maybe we'll go on it on another time when you've shown me that you can behave better or that you can do things better. Then we can go on it on another time. At the end of the day, is creativity, okay? You just need to be creative. But the one thing is you're not going to do is you're not going to let your children run wild and do whatever they want to do because you think, oh, I can't spank them or I can't flog them or I can't beat them, then therefore I can't do anything. You are not powerless as a parent. You are absolutely not powerless. You just have to think of constructive and creative ways in order for you to be able to discipline your children. Now, as I said, for me, the key thing here is you need to learn to appeal to the conscience of your children, because that is where deep learning happens. That is where reflection happens, okay? If you're not able to tell them, okay, this is wrong. Why do you think it's wrong? Let them see for themselves that what they've done is wrong. For me, that's when change is lasting for me, because it's like in school. If you've got a child who's trying to learn, and you end up telling them the answer every single time, they're not going to learn. They're absolutely not going to learn. So they will expect you every time to tell them the answer. But if you walk them through how to get to the answer, And that child is like, sometimes it's like a light bulb moment, and it's, oh, okay, I get it now. You find out that in a situation like that, when learning happens like that, that child is never going to forget that thing or that steps to how to get to that thing. But if I tell you the answer, then unfortunately you haven't learned anything. So for me, that is where I say appeal to the conscience. Let them see, let their conscience enable them see, okay, this is not a good thing to have done, or it's not a good way to have it's not a good way to have behaved. So that's number one. So take away privileges, basically. Take away privileges, things that you know that if we take it from them, then they have more chances to reflect and think, okay, this is what I've done is serious. Okay. Then another thing is positive praise. Okay. So we make sure we have a balance. Okay. We're not going to all the time hinge on the negative things, but let us also highlight the positive things, because sometimes children tend to do better when you praise them than when you when you don't do that. So when they do something that you know that they don't usually do, praise it. Oh, I can see that you picked your things up today. Fantastic. Well done. You are such a wonderful child. Tomorrow, nobody will tell him to go pick, or she to go pick that thing. They will pick it up. Oh, I can see that you've tidied up your room, or that you've kept the cup back in the right place. This is wonderful. I am so pleased and I'm so impressed with your behavior. I tell you, tomorrow, they will do that thing. So make sure that you give constructive praise. You are clear on what it is that you are praising, on what behavior that you want to achieve, and that you are praising that behavior. And you see that the children will just follow. They will just follow. And because they like it, they want that praise, they want that affirmation, they will do the right thing the next time. So as much as you are trying to correct the bad, also highlight the good. Highlight the good. And please, one way to highlight the good is not by bribing them or by giving them sweets for every time they do something good. No, you don't want to associate treats with praise, because once you do that, it's a wrong impression that you're giving them, that every time you praise, there must be a treat attached to it or something attached to it. That is not a good, healthy behavior. Okay, so you should be able to praise your children. Now, sometimes you can attach treats to it, okay, sometimes, but not all the time. It shouldn't be an everyday thing that whenever I praise you, then I have to give you something or give you a treat. No. So just use your words to, again, appeal to their conscience, appeal to themselves, so that they can continue with that good behavior. Now, again, another thing is, if you are a Christian or a Muslim or whatever religion that you are, I'm sure that most religions have core values and core principles. Okay, like for me, I'm a Christian. Our core value and our core principle is be kind, be good, be respectful, be peace loving, and all of that. So these are the things that you need to teach your children. Now, for us as a family, we make sure that we do our morning devotion. And within this morning devotion, we bring out all of these key principles: love, kindness, respect, looking after your things, looking after your property, be kind to others, don't be rude, this is how you should behave. You touch across things to do with sexuality, you touch across things to do with how you behave, how you look after yourself. So these, for us as a family, we try as much as possible to make sure that our children grow up with good Christian values. Again, sometimes when you discipline, you also discipline to the Bible. You say, why? The Bible says we should not do this. And you know that every time we're in Sunday school, we go to church, we read the Bible in this house, and you know that some of these things the Bible says you should love. The Bible says you should respect your parents and you should respect others. So again, we filter in through that religion, we filter through that Christianity with them, so that they can see that, okay, it is a lifestyle, it is a way of living. It's not just what I hear on the TV, it's not what I hear on Sunday school, but rather it is a continuous lifestyle that you have to live. So that way, we are also inculcating the Christian values in them. Of course, the Christian values are good values, and I'm sure all other religions who have values in them, they all have good values that will be beneficial as a family. So we never miss our morning devotion with our children. We do that we go to church and all of that. And through this, as well as I said, we are filtering the good behavior, what is expected of you, and how you expected to behave as a child. So again, don't just for me, you hold on to that, hold on to whatever Christian values or whatever values that you have in your religion. Hold on to that and let your children hear it over and over and over again, so that they would know that, okay, this is what is expected of me as a Christian. As the Bible says, this is what I should do and this is what I shouldn't do. And especially if you have teenagers who are growing up in a society where it can be a bit wild, then this is where you then have to hold tight onto your faith, and at the same time praying for them, and at the same time leading them and training them in the way of the Lord. So again, go through, we have this thing in my sitting room where we have all the Christian values: love, kindness, peace, hope, and all of that. And sometimes we do devotions on this thing. So it's okay, this month is a month of kindness, and we'll try as much as possible that whatever we're doing, we're touching upon that value for that month. So that's what we do. Then this month, okay, this month is a month of respect, and then we do our devotions around that. We find resources that have to do with respect for that, and that also can be appealing to children, and we do that with them. This is just so that we're imbibing those values in them, so that they can be better people. I think for us as a family, that has equally worked as well. Again, going to church or going to the mosque or going whatever religion you have, make sure that you take your children there so they can also hear and listen to other children's experiences and interact with other people and hear how other people behave and see for themselves as well. Okay, so for me, these are the things that we have done as a family in order to be able to discipline our children without the use of flogging, or without the use of cane, or without the use of shouting. Now, sometimes I shout, okay? I'm not going to stand there and say I don't shout. Sometimes when it's gotten to here, I will raise my voice. But it shouldn't be an everyday thing. You shouldn't, because at the end of the day, you don't want your children to, because now you think, okay, I can't flog them, I can't beat them, then therefore I'm going to shout. You don't want to do that. I mean, naturally, we Nigerians, we're very loud people, okay? We are loud. Now, the last thing you want is for your child to go out there, wherever school, and then learn how to shout, and therefore every little thing they scream. I mean, the English people wouldn't take it lightly, because of course they know that we're loud people, but then you don't want your children to learn shouting as a means of communicating, because it is not. Okay, so shouting should be your very last full cup result. But as I said, for us, the thing that works is dialogue. Sit and talk to them, let them reason for themselves, and let them see what they've done and what they could do better in order to try and to stop whatever it is that they're doing that you think it's not helpful to them and to the household. So these are the key things that we have done. Now, other people might have other strategies, I don't know, but if you have any other strategy that I haven't mentioned that works for your family, please leave it on the description box below, and I will catch up on those and share it with the group. And I'm sure other people too can also read the comments below to see what it is that you're doing. So here, this is for me what we do here in the UK. And so far, we've raised 3 beautiful, wonderful children. I mean, I am so grateful to God that my children have been easy. They have been wonderful, easy children. I mean, I've got teenagers. When they were grown up, people said, oh, wait until they are teenagers and they'll be horrible. And no, my children have basically given us no stress whatsoever. So, and I'm so grateful to God for that. And I hope that they continue to remain that way. But again, as a family, these are just the things that we've been doing with them from day one. And as I said, my husband is an expert when it comes to reasoning. He's an expert. So these are the things that we've been doing with them from day one. And so far, so good. It's been a wonderful experience. And we've never had any issues with them. So I hope it's been helpful to you. As I said, please feel free to leave your comments down in the comment section below. And if you've got any other questions, please leave it down and I will pick that up and answer to it when I can. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, and share my videos, and I will see you sometime soon. Bye.